Okay, here's where I am, Carpentry of Bluffs, nature preserve and playing fields. And out there are the oil platforms. One of them, I don't know if it was one of these, but one of them broke and blew up in 1969 and kind of launched the whole environmental thing and get oil out. I mean, it was a mess. It really, not to downplay that thing, it was a mess. But anyway, so now we're 2020, year of the coronavirus, and if you look back, I made a video, I think it's been 6, 7, maybe almost 8 weeks ago, about believing that this was crazy because I had gotten the Hong Kong flu in 1968, 69, and I'd gotten the London flu in 73, and those had, I mean, even today, if you look at the current stats on COVID, worldwide it's over 300,000, but the Hong Kong flu killed 1 million to 4 million people. And, you know, there was no such reaction. So I just, and when I did my other video, which you can find it on YouTube, there were only a few hundred people had died, if that. I mean, not to minimize anybody's death, but it was just nothing compared to the Hong Kong flu, for which there was no extreme reaction. And for 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, I felt really quite alone. I remember I went to see some relatives in Las Vegas in around, actually it was early March, and I couldn't even suggest that this was not what it was being made out to be, without being called ignorant and in denial. And yet I'm still of the same opinion. But at least now, here we are in May, at least now there are many thousands, well, I know of a couple, 3 dozen that I found on YouTube, doctors and scientists and so on, that have utterly demolished this coronavirus hysteria. I mean, of course, if you believe it, there's plenty of information out there to support the claim of the believers, but it's typically a politician will get up there, maybe a local health official, maybe director of the local health department will call all these rules for whatever location you're in, and yet they don't really present anybody. They always talk about the data and the science. Heard Governor Newsom say that. And yet they don't even cite any science or data, or they don't say who's making these claims. I mean, you do have Fauci and Birx out there that I believe, in my opinion, Trump really made a big mistake trusting those people. I mean, now he's somewhat disavowing, but Trump is utterly I don't hate Trump, but he's just, to me, he's utterly clueless. I mean, he doesn't have any background. He's a businessman. So that's not his background. He didn't get up to speed. And, but anyway, one of the theories that's been out there recently is that why is the media, the television media, pretty much, whether it's Fox or MSNBC or CNN, you don't hear anybody veering off the narrative too much. I remember there was a guy, the Cow Guy. I can't think of his name offhand, but he was on Fox Business Channel, and early on he said it didn't smell right. You know, he's like, nobody had died in Indiana or wherever he is, somewhere in the Midwest, that it was just, and yet everything was shut down. But then he was quiet after that. I didn't hear him. He seemed very subdued. And then there's these 3 doctors, television doctors. I can't remember their names offhand. I don't have my notes with me. And I don't watch those shows very much. But 2 of them are psychologists, so they're not really MDs. And one of them is a medical doctor. And early on, I mean, well, not that long ago, they pretty much said, well, this is just the flu. Just you know, they completely, you know, went against the grain. And then there was another one, John, what's his name? There was a guy on Fox. It was an open mic incident where they were saying, oh yeah, it's just the flu. Open mic, you know, it wasn't meant to be heard. It wasn't meant for broadcast, but it did happen to be broadcast. And then it was a day later, it was all completely disavowed. And I wish I could remember the name. John, I think it's John. He's a 60-year-old man, kind of thin. And he asked Burks the question about because he was relaying this thing, well, isn't it just the flu? And Burks went on for 2-3 minutes and never answered the question. It was a complete dissembling, you know, it was complete not answering the question. And so that's a different matter. But as far as the media, one of the theories, this was another guy who was on YouTube. He was a producer, I guess, and for a fictional TV doctor show, and his deal is that these sponsors, and we all watch TV and we see all those commercials for the drug companies, for all these drugs. I mean, it is pretty mind-blowing. I mean, stop and think about it. So any news that runs contrary to the narrative, or that casts drugs or casts these drugs or this influenza or coronavirus in a negative light, oh no, you can't do that. I mean, that's the bread and butter. So these guys were just intimidated, and you'd see like the 3 TV doctors, they within 24 hours or 48 hours they're retracting everything. And then the cow guy, there was that incident. I just said, oh, what happened to that guy? But now if you go on YouTube, they are not sponsored by the drug companies, and that's where you get more information. Although YouTube also has the community guidelines that they use to censor a lot of information that runs contrary to the CDC or the WHO. You know, these big, you know, those are the supposedly, they're the experts. You know, you can't question anything they say. And yet, I was looking at that death clock thing, and I've talked about anything, that's just nuts. But to have this obsession, but I noticed, if you look at the death clock thing, there's the CDC, WHO, there's I think it's the NIH or something. They're four different acronyms, and they're all endorsing the same stats. So that, to me, even though WHO is world and CDC is national, they're all the same. And then, of course, the theories go into Bill Gates and his population obsession, and and his involvement with CDC. Anyway, all you can do is just inform yourself. Don't just necessarily believe what the media is telling you. It's tainted, in my view. I stand by my initial video. I had the Hong Kong, I had the London flu, I don't remember, I was only 14 years old and 57, but when we were kids, we were all sick all the time. I mean, I can just remember being miserable many, many times as a little kid, and just sick, feverish, And it wasn't even, it was before I even went to school. I lived in a neighborhood, there was a lot of us kids. I got pictures of me. I loved my friends, you know, we all just hung out together. But that's how, you know, the activity, the hanging out together, we got the measles, we got the chicken pox, we got the mumps, I got them all. And then I had my tonsils taken out. I don't know if that was a good idea, but everybody was doing it back then. And you have a sore throat, get your tonsils taken out, and come to find out they're part of your immune system. But I've done okay without them. And and then I had, of course, like most of us, by the time you're an adult, you've had a number of shots. I was in the goddamn military, and they were shooting it in with an air gun, you know, just running through a line and shooting you full of whoever knows what. And I've had tetanus shots. And I did get, I think twice I got flu shots, and then Bush, there was a flu outbreak, and I remember Bush ran out of the flu shot, and I just said, oh, I'm not getting them again. That was probably 2006, something like that. And I'm not sorry I didn't get them. They're not, I don't think, very effective, and there's a lot of info. I mean, I'm not anti-vax. If you want to get your vaccinations, go ahead, but I'm going to pass on it. Not that I'm anti-med. I had blood poisoning, and that was an antibiotic, saved my life. And then I got a staph infection. Either one of those things could have been fatal. And once it was a shot, another time it was pills, and I'm telling you, within 4 hours, I was feeling better. That red line going up my forearm was just dissolved. So, thank God. I would have been dead, I'm sure, a long time ago. That blood poisoning would have probably killed me in my 20s. It's a hard thing to get over. I mean, you can look that up. I mean, to keep this thing in perspective, blood poisoning, staph infections. I had hepatitis. At the time, there was no cure for that. There was no, I think, gamma globulin, if you was a possibly something that could help. But that kills, I don't know, a lot of people every year, millions, I believe, die of hepatitis. And this hepatitis A, I wasn't aware of being, I'm pretty sure it was hepatitis A. I think I'd been down in Mexico. And that was the sickest I've ever was in my life with that hepatitis. Just went on for weeks, and I just, at some point I thought, if that's how it is, if I knew I was going to feel like that, I'd just soon be dead. So I'm not against medicine, but at all. But I think these vaccines and this, what is it? This RNA, Moderna. Now they're the ones that are just fast tracking this thing, warp speed. It's showing up antibodies, you know, looking good. The stock market shoots up. I mean, to me, it's all just really insane, irrational behavior. You know, people go, oh my God. And you come to find out this thing is probably way less than 1%, maybe 0.1%, maybe 0.01% lethality. And it's mostly old people like me that get it. It's not a real, hardly any children get it. And people have the antibodies when they're walking around. You know, why get a shot if 80% of the population, 70% don't even notice they have it because their immune system is strong. I'm out here building up my immune system. Oh, okay, this is what I look like. Oh, horrifying. Anyway, that's why I just show pictures of the clouds and the ocean and the mustard flowers, and I'm done. Okay, so don't bother me. I don't wear a mask, and if you don't want to get near me, fine, I won't get near you. But I do resent people shaming me because of their superstitious, unscientific belief that I'm a carrier of something that's a threat to them. It's utter bullshit. And on that note, so long.